What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Captain Trucker. Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you tuning in. Today, I want to discuss why I'm raising my son in the Philippines education system as opposed to America. Now, my son's a dual citizen, expat, so he's American as well as Filipino. So I want to discuss the reason why I'm doing that. And just to give you to be straight up on this isn't a matter of like which one is better. I'm not sitting here saying like the Philippines raising a kid here and putting him through the school system's better than America or vice versa. But I will compare and contrast a few things, but I'm going to show you guys the reason why I'm doing it, okay? And why for me and for others, I think it's actually a better idea. So first and foremost, you know, one of the misconceptions, I think a lot of people there's a common narrative that you get a better education in America versus the Philippines, right? But that's actually not true in terms of like, I don't know what they argue that on, but as far as curriculum, if you go to a private school or like an international school in the Philippines, I mean, you're basically going to be studying U.S. curriculum pretty much at the same pace. A few things might be a little bit different, like U.S. history and stuff like that, but overall it's more or less the same curriculum as far as education. Now, one of the issues in public schools in the Philippines is lack of resources, okay? So you can have dozens and dozens of students per classroom with like one teacher, and there's just not enough to give each student his needs. And if you're from a less educated family and the parents aren't involved, I mean, the kids kind of get lost in the shuffle, and that does happen. But if you can go to a private school or an international school, you can pretty much get that attention, smaller classroom sizes that you need, all right? Now, international schools are quite costly, into the potentially the thousands of dollars per semester. But if you go to a private school, it's significantly less, and you can find good ones, even in the provinces, like private Christian schools and stuff, and they'll have like maybe 8 to 10 students in the class. You got the teacher who has, you know, individual attention with every student. And then what I also do is I get my son a tutor. He goes 3 times a week. It's only like 1,000 pesos a week. So he also gets one-on-one sessions with a private tutor, as well as at home we do like homeschooling curriculum. I use like Time for Learning. It's a great resource, very interactive. They got like kids, it's like they have a lot of games, and it's very interactive. Like, it's fun, you know. The kids like actually enjoy they enjoy it because it's teaching them while they're like playing a game. So it's very creative, very good stuff. But anyway, yeah, it mostly starts in the home. I mean, let's face it, I think sometimes maybe us parents have a denial, like we just kind of, you know, we're busy working and we want to just throw the kids in the school system and just hope that everything works out. But I mean, sometimes, you know, you really got to work with your kids at the home, whatever country you're in. That's just my opinion. But as far as like other reasons why I'm doing it is, you know, first of all, I think America is a great land of opportunity, okay? Opportunity, work. But there is like, in my opinion, generally speaking, to compare cultures, I think there's a severe breakdown of the family unit, okay? And we'll get into the mental health stuff and the 1 in 4 people on medications in the mental health industry. It's a complete disaster. Sorry, I sound like Trump now. It's a disaster, but it is. I mean, it is. But let's go back to the American family, okay? I know so many people, unfortunately, okay, friends, even expats I've talked to, that come from severely dysfunctional, toxic families, and they talk about it. You know, they'll even tell people. It's amazing. Now, fortunately, like, I mean, I came from a pretty decent family. I didn't have some of these issues, but boy, I'll tell you, man, I've seen some severely tragic stories growing up. Not just in small families, but I've noticed this more in like mid-size-ish families. In large families, it especially can be toxic for some people. Yeah, I mean, look, it's getting to the point in America now where like the individualism is so egotistical that people will trash their own siblings and their own parents just to get ahead, or they do it because they think it's what gets them ahead. They turn on their own people almost as like a power ploy. And it's like, it's so unbelievable. I'll give you so many examples, but it's basically, it's getting to the point where it's lower. I'm just saying, I'm sorry, but it's pretty bad, man. And it's like the destruction of the family it's really the root cause of some of my culture's problems. Now, again, this isn't like a critique on America in a negative way, like, oh, America's bad, the Philippines is good, because that's not the case. There's like good and plus and minuses in both cultures. The idea is to educate and assimilate on both sides so we can bridge these gaps. But I'll give you an example. Like this guy that I knew, this trucker. He had 5 brothers and sisters. He was like, I think, one of the youngest, and they were like a lower middle income class family. He had a decent career later on in life, but had problems with alcohol, violence, stuff like that. He's sitting there one day, I'm talking to him on the phone, and he's just railing on his brother Joe, just talking mad crap about him, about just what a degenerate he was and how he never worked much and he spent all of his money and now he needs a place to live and nobody wanted to house him, And later on, his brother committed suicide. He blew his head off with a revolver because his brother didn't want him to stay with him. Nobody wanted to deal with him anymore. And even after his brother was dead, this guy's still talking crap about his own brother. Okay? See, this is the kind of stuff, gossiping about him. This is the kind of stuff that doesn't happen nearly as much like in these type of cultures on earth, like in Asian cultures, Southeast Asia. That would be a great point of shame, to turn your back, to talk crap about your own siblings, to throw your parents in the nursing home and all that kind of stuff. And it would be a great point of shame to do that, and it blows my mind, the origins of where this is coming from. And I'll tell you, I think some of it is coming from this extreme idea of individualism and ego combined with being competitive, independent, freedom, and all that. But it's taken on this perverse twist over time, because the American families, man, they weren't always like this, and like the destruction has been evolving over time. And you even see it in the president's family, man, like even in Trump's family. Like there's some real dramas going on there with certain family members being cut out of wills and some having disabilities, and they kind of black sheep them. And it's just like, and what blows my mind is the people I've talked to that black sheep their siblings or whoever is like, they're all the same. Like this guy Jerry, he's describing his brother as like all these things, like he's a bad character. He was bad, and he was a degenerate. I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, you're describing yourself. They all have like the similar qualities, right? But there's always like one that they try to black sheep the most. He was the bad guy. The rest of them were fine. Such BS, man. So whenever you hear, these toxic American families like talking bad about each other, just always remember that they're usually revealing their own character. I'm sorry. They all come from the same pot. So my point is that I don't see this as much in Asia. I don't see it as much in the Philippines. Even in lower income families that struggle, poor families in the province, I don't see them tearing on each other. And likewise, even with families with money, I don't see it as much either. I'm sure it happens, but it's not as much, man. And but anyway, so yeah, the family-centric culture, yeah, I think that's a good reason to raise kids here in and of itself, okay? So that's kind of where I am on that. It also, I think it has an effect on the upbringing. I really do. I really do. And, people talk about school shootings in the U.S. They have increased over time since Columbine, which was 1999. That was like the first one, and it was like, oh my God, I can't believe, how could this happen? People were so surprised that it happened. It's like, are you really that surprised? But then it carries on. There's more and more and more over time, to where when you hear about it now, it's almost become run of the mill. It's not as shocking. Not that that means that like public schools are inherently more dangerous. I mean, these are like rare things that happen, but it's more of a reflection of the general dismissal of your fellow man, you know? The callousness of treating humanity. Kids even doing this to each other, it's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, there's a legitimate mental health crisis in America that's undeniable. You know, you can't deny it. So, you know, there's that. And it's tragic. But I mean, most of it's starting from the family. It's unbelievable, you know. So I'm not sure where that comes from, man. I think it's that there's a strong sense of individualism. But there's a lot of positives too in America. I mean, there is. I mean, you know, poverty and financial stuff does have an effect. Not everybody in the Philippines that are poor are necessarily happy, but generally speaking, it is more of a content culture. They do value simplicity more. Now, a lot of Westerners may think that's just due to economic reasons, but it's not true. I mean, I've studied and observed, like, you know, upper middle class Asian families, Filipino families that live in like Daly City, California. Like my first girlfriend, who was, you know, Filipino, came to America when she was young. They all stay together and they all have good careers and stuff. They take care of each other because they value the family, man. Like, family-centric culture is a part of education. Now, if we can learn some of this basic wisdom from these cultures and somehow apply it, yeah, America would be a much better place because we still do have opportunities and we do have freedom relatively compared to other, you know, nations with less opportunities. And that's one of the tragedies. But, you know, the basic ignorance of such things about these destruction of the families, and, you know, this whole mental health thing has become like an excuse. And first of all, it's not even like real science, but like if you notice, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 Americans is supposedly suffering from a medical psychiatric condition. I mean, you know, some of this stuff I believe is really the remnants and the results of abusive families and dysfunction. I'm sorry, but I mean, you know, you can try to tailor it up with pseudoscience and make all the excuses and discoveries in the world, which they really haven't. But it kind of always has come down to that. But anyway, yeah, the family-centric culture is, for me, it's one of the bigger reasons for raising, you know, why I would want to raise my son in the Philippines. And even in childhood, like in the provinces, there's more interactions with the extended family. I think they say, is it 73% of Filipinos live with extended families, and then I think maybe 23% of Americans do. And I think that's good for the childhood experience. It's like, it's not as dull. Like, especially if you're like a 1 or 2 kid house in America and both your parents are working, it can be kind of mundane-ish, you know, because you're not always going to be around family. You're going to be locked in a suburb somewhere, like, you know, in a house. But, you know, the neighbors aren't hanging out in the suburbs of America. And if your family's not all living together, you know, what's really going on there, right? I don't know. So I used to see more of that growing up. You know, I was fortunate. I came from a pretty good family, and I liked the fact that I came from a big family. But I saw others who had smaller families, and you know, there was a sense of loneliness and a bit of a dullness in their upbringing. I do recall that distinctly, actually. But anyway, yeah, guys, like, one's not better than the other, okay? And if we Americans could somehow learn to implement some of these ideas of family and rethink mental health into the education system, or into our education and just general way of life, it would probably make America 15 times better, or at least 2 times or 3 times better. And yeah, and when you're growing up in America, especially if you're in a lower middle class family, like, you got parents working, man, just to have a place to live. So your parents aren't always involved either, because they're stressed out working. A lot of American families carry debt. They say the average American household has like 40,000 in debt or something, maybe more, 90,000. I don't know if that's true. That's an average. Averages get thrown off by outliers, but we'll just assume the medium is quite a bit too. So when you have debt and when you got a lot of work, you got stressed out parents, and you can't deny that. And you know, it can be hard for the kids. So yeah, Philippines versus American education, where to raise them. I still feel like if my son had the majority of his education experience in the Philippines and he got to experience America more as he got older, especially for work opportunities, I think that's an overall better balance. That's sort of the reasons why I say that. Yeah, anyway, that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think. It's Captain Trucker. Please subscribe and share your comments. Thank you all. Bye-bye.